So I founded a nonprofit in New Jersey called Jersey First, and we have an incredible internship program in the summer. And every summer we have 35 interns, and we teach them how to run a grassroots campaign, soup to nuts. And their job is to develop policy, come up with the policy. And this year they are developing policy that says, what do you want America to look in the next 50 years from now? What do you want America to look like? And what's the policy you would put in place? And that's what we have to be teaching our youth and talking about. And I always tell people, I'm not telling them what to think, I'm telling them how to think. And we've got to get back to that in this country and stuff.
The New Jersey Statehouse Watch is on. From Trenton, we explain what's happening inside the Statehouse, speaking directly with legislators, policymakers, and budget experts to bring you the facts behind the decisions.
There's no doubt that energy bills are about to skyrocket this summer.
$300 million to Newark billionaires? That ain't cutting it for rural New Jersey. Enough of it.
With your hosts, Jack Brangan and Constance Ditzel. So stick around. Here's Jack and Connie.
Hi, good evening. I'm Constance, and you can see I'm here solo tonight. Jack Brangan is on vacation. He had the nerve to want to take a break on the way to Cape May, and that's where he is. So good for Jack. I'll remind him that I came back from vacation in time for my podcast, and I went a lot further than he did. So just a little dig there. Anyway, you saw at the beginning, our guest tonight is going to be Rosemary Becky. I'm very impressed with what she's doing with Advocacy in Trenton, because I've tried to do a little of this myself. I've attended Senate hearings, and I know the challenges. Massively impressed on how she's broken through and gone so far as to have training on it. So we'll jump to that in a moment, but I wanted to get to a couple news items. One, as you may have seen this week, that our governor has gleefully signed the bill about protecting healthcare providers of minors in their care. We talked about that on this show. Jack and I gave public comment on it. We're gravely concerned about it because there are three concerning elements. Your First Amendment rights are upended for people who might want to be praying outside of abortion centers. The second thing is that it protects all the providers of abortions people coming from out of state for third trimester abortions. It protects people coming from out of state for gender dysphoria treatment. Who it does not protect are the victims of human trafficking, which is going to be significant coming into our state. It does not protect the young women that believe they want third trimester abortion. It certainly doesn't protect those children. And it's concerning that the providers are more of who we're looking after these days. I would say that New Jersey has now become a sanctuary state, not just for illegals, but for human traffickers, gender mutilation, and third trimester abortion. This is where you come, I suppose. And I think that's kind of sad. It's also going to be on the burden of New Jersey taxpayers. There's, I think, $50 million set aside for people who come across state lines from other states for abortion. And if they need help to defend their right from their original state, New Jersey will chip in the money, your money and mine. So I wanted to point that out. That was signed this week. Something else that came to my attention this week, it did not happen this week, but I think it's good for everybody to know there is a lot of buzz going around this Promise to America pledge. The Promise to America pledge is something that a group of moderate Democrats put together in June. Namely, I think it's Adam Gray from California, Tom Suozzi from New York, and they wanted to come up with a pledge for other Democrats to sign. I'll just give you the bullet points because I think it's pretty impressive. We are capitalists, not socialists. We want safety, not lawlessness. They want fiscal discipline. We are responsible, not reckless. We believe government should solve problems, not create them. We are mainstream, not extreme, and we're proud, not ashamed of America. I thought this was a terrific pledge that I think a lot of Republicans would sign, and I think a lot of the people I know who are Democrats would sign this too. However, only 13 of Democrats that signed this pledge. So I would say those who are not signing this pledge, you don't want is to be congressmen in representing you, and you don't want to vote in someone to be your congressman if they can't support a basic pledge like this. So I say Democrats, socialists are coming to America. I'm sorry, coming to New Jersey, because we have Donald Norcross here, at least in Congressional District 1, where I am, who has not signed the pledge. So you might want to look into that and see where your congressman is in the state. So that's the little bit of the opening buzz I wanted to give you. But I'm more interested now at this point in bringing our guest, Rosemary Becky, out of the green room. Hi, Rosemary. Thank you for coming back from Italy.
Thank you for having me.
I think maybe you probably wanted to stay. Nobody likes to come immediately back from vacation when they're somewhere so beautiful.
It's good to be home, though. It's good to be home.
Yeah. I always feel good coming back from Europe and seeing the Statue of Liberty from the air. There's something that makes me feel very happy when I'm doing that. I've felt that way every time that I've flown over there and come back and close coming in. So, at any rate, what got you into politics? What's a little bit of your background?
So my background is I'm actually a tax lawyer, and I started my career in Washington, D.C. I worked at the Internal Revenue Service in the Office of Chief Counsel. And then from there, I went up to Capitol Hill and I worked at the U.S. Senate. I was tax counsel to the Senate Finance Committee, and truly that's where my passion for policy really developed. I had the great honor of co-authoring the 529 college savings plans while I was there. So it's really where my passion really began.
Who were some of the senators at that time when you said you were with the council?
So I worked for Chairman Roth of Delaware, was the chairman of the Finance Committee, and Senator Moynihan was the ranking member. And you know, the Senate, to a certain extent, still is, but in those days, you know, in particular, the Finance Committee was very bipartisan. The members worked very closely together on legislation. And it was interesting. We used to do a lot of tax bills and get a lot of things done. You don't really see that as much anymore.
So what made you, what was your first campaign that would have drawn you to create your organization, Jersey First, which I'm now mentioning the first time for viewers?
So, you know, we moved to New Jersey in 2008, and you know, and living there and commuting back to DC it was really interesting for me to see what was happening in New Jersey, in particular with regards to property taxes. I felt like I would come home from work, and every time I turned around, my property taxes were continuing to rise. And it really made me want to get involved. And so I started talking to local leaders and asking, you know, how can I make a difference? Where can I be helpful? And to be honest, you know, a lot of the advice I got was that, you know, you should really think about doing advocacy. And so with that in mind, we launched Jersey First back in 2018. And really we're off to the races. And it was a really fascinating thing. I mean, one of the things we started with was taking a look at New Jersey's economy and what was happening to our budget. And there was so much you could see, and really some of the drivers, how much money we were spending on education, things of that nature, you know, really became present and really, I got to see how all connected it was, and how there was a great need to really push and be an advocate out there for lower taxes and less spending.
I think some of our viewers don't know the difference between being a lobbyist and being an advocate, and what that means when you're going up to Trenton, how you get your voice heard.
So, they are very different. When you're a lobbyist, you're working for, typically a specific group of people. You are out there and getting paid to be an advocate. But the advocacy that we do at Jersey First is more about kind of the grassroots campaigning, and really kind of being out there in Trenton and other places talking about the issues, but also bringing the community into that conversation and making sure that the community is being heard with regards to their concerns.
What was one of the first campaigns you worked on that you felt was at least I don't whether they won or not, but it was a successful campaign, a good campaign? Did I get that out? Can you hear me? A campaign that you personally worked on before you launched the organization, or one of the early campaigns?
In terms of, yeah, no, I can. I think it really came from a lot of my experience in working in the Senate that really kind of launched what I wanted to do in New Jersey. And one of the things that I've learned in my career in Washington, D.C., is how important it is to bring people together, to have those conversations and begin that dialogue, and frankly, to get your foot in the door. And sometimes, you've got to be able to make incremental strides in putting, legislation out there and being successful. I can tell you, and I don't know if some of the viewers remember, but when we first enacted 529 college savings plans 30 years ago, it was taxable at the student's rate. And, that was something that was a compromise, right? We wanted the earnings to be tax-free on those accounts, but we learned that, we couldn't get the other side comfortable with it. And so we needed to make concessions in order to move forward. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I've learned, is making sure that, we are listening, that we are having conversations and talking about how to move good policy forward.
I was going to ask about 529s later, but since we're here, I wanted to ask, because I think a lot of people don't know what they are. Could you give a brief summary about what a 529 is?
Happy to. So 529s are named after a section of the tax code. It is actually section 529 of the tax code, and they're savings accounts. And they're a way for families initially to save for college. And they were, I'm getting to my age here, but we enacted them. We just had our 30th birthday of the 529, and they've expanded over the years. So you can save for expenses that your child incurs, K through 12. You can also save for technical schools and things of that nature. And they've been so wildly successful. There's over 17 million accounts, and there's more than $550 billion in those accounts. And it's actually been kind of the roadmap for what we've seen in recent years with regards to the Trump accounts. They certainly served as a blueprint for that. And also the federal scholarship tax credit as well, also a blueprint for that. And so to me, it's exciting to see all these vehicles and this initiative happening in our country and across the nation and in the local, state and local, and seeing families save for these expenses. So.
Are you referring to the federal, what was it, in the One Big Beautiful Bill? Are you referring to that when you said a blueprint for, let's see, a blueprint for a federal income tax credit? Is that what you're referring to? That was in the one.
So it's called the Federal Scholarship. Yes. It was in the One Big Beautiful Bill. It's the Federal Scholarship Tax Credit. And it's a really exciting provision. And it requires every governor to opt into the program. Our governor has not opted in yet. Her staff and has indicated that they are evaluating it. But once a state opts into the program, it basically allows families to contribute monies to a scholarship granting organization. And if they contribute up to $1,700, they can get a federal tax credit. So that's like a dollar for dollar reduction of your taxes, which, can be pretty advantageous. And rather than sending it to Washington, it can potentially stay here in New Jersey. And then what those scholarship granting organizations do is they give scholarships out to K through 12 kids in both private and public school. So it's really exciting. It's going to be super beneficial to our public school kids, could potentially help with some of the funding shortfalls that are happening in the state. So we are certainly all hopeful and optimistic that the governor will consider opting into it and to help our public school kids.
Yeah, I do wonder why she hasn't signed on already. I mean, there are other, if it has anything to do with being a Democrat or a Republican state, I think New York and Pennsylvania have signed in, but New Jersey has not opted in yet.
New York has indicated that they're likely to opt in. The governor there in New York has said she'd like to see the regulations, but she's indicated that she's likely to opt in. And I know that Governor Shapiro is seriously considering it. And so, yes, there are some Democratic governors that are waiting to see kind of what the U.S. Treasury Department puts out this fall in terms of how the rules will work. But this program kind of takes effect January 1st. So we definitely need governors to opt in sooner rather than later. So, it's just amazing how beneficial this will be to our public school kids.
Yes. Let's jump to your interns. I think this is probably the nicest aspect of what you've got going. I know you have an internship program, college, high school. Do they get credit, and how do you find them?
So you're right. This is like the core of our program. And I'll just share a little bit about how it kind of originated. I will share with you when I ran for Congress in 2020. It was a tough time. And campaign offices were actually essential. So we were open. And we had a lot of kids that, spent time in our offices and were really interested in learning about policy and politics. And, they would come, spend the day, work, do their homework. And it really instilled in myself and others, board members of Jersey First, that there was a real need to create a program and really teach kids about how policy is made. And so the program is an incredible program. It's a 10-week program in the summer. We typically have 35 students participate. We take kids everywhere from 11th grade all the way up to graduate students. So it really runs the gamut. And they learn to run a grassroots campaign, soup to nuts, as I like to say it. And what I mean is basically, they learn to develop policy, think about what the policy they want to be, do all sorts of research on it. We do lots of training. So we teach them about team building. We also bring in professional policy experts from all over the country who talk about how they develop policy. And then they typically every year they're given a theme. And as the clip showed, this year, the theme was, what do you want New Jersey to look like on the 300th birthday of our nation? So they needed to come up with the policy that they thought needed to happen today to make New Jersey what they want it to be on our 300th birthday of our country and stuff. So it was really, really exciting to listen to the kids. They developed tax policy. They looked at education. They frankly looked at legacy issues, things that they viewed as things that they wanted to be their legacy, which was just fascinating to see what they came up with and stuff. So, and this is truly the heart of our program. And we do make opportunities for these kids to go on and be either paid interns or potentially return as a team leader in a future year. And then ultimately they can serve as a fellow for our sister organization, the New Jersey Policy Institute. So, wow. And our kids have gone on to do amazing things. We've got a whole bunch of kids working in Washington, D.C., whether they're working for think tanks, they're working for political parties. We've got kids working up in Wall Street, and it's just exciting to see the leadership and the skills that they develop, through the program.
Is there an online application? And if you want to go ahead, because not everybody watches the show, some people listen. Is there an online application? And if you want to cite the website?
Yes, there is. It is on our website. It is Jersey, Jersey, 1st.org. And it's up there on the screen right now. And you just go to the website and there's a tab for the intern program and there's an application. And it's a rolling process. And I can't tell you what an amazingly wonderful program it is. And, we take kids from all over the country. But, the one commonality is that they all have some kind of tie to New Jersey. Many of them go to school all over the country, but they're from New Jersey. They love New Jersey. And so they want to be a part of that program and stuff. And it's not kids that are just, studying to be lawyers or do public policy. We get a lot of kids that are in business school and other things. So it's really exciting to kind of see.
Well, your enthusiasm is infectious. I would certainly like to tell people about it. My children are past this age, or else I jump right in. And having tried to run for office before, I would have liked to have been an intern in your program as an adult, actually. You could probably do well with adult interns. They might even pay you. So.
No, I think it's really important for us in New Jersey to create a pipeline and really, because we want kids to have an honest debate about the issues. And I'm always fascinated listening to the different perspectives. And I think that the sooner that they talk about these issues and learn to converse with each other about them, I think it's important.
Well, I understand after talking to Zach, that I'm going to point out three major efforts mostly for our listeners, so that you might want to stick around to hear all three. One we talked about was data centers. We talked about affordable housing, and we talked about education/property taxes. These are all big areas. Data centers have been on the forefront right now. What are the kind of the efforts you're advocating for in regards to data centers, or some of the policy that came out of the program?
Yeah, so at Jersey First, and also at Jersey First, we are really, we call it our four pillars that we're really focused on, right? Supporting our businesses, advocating for lower taxes, less spending. We get involved in education, and then we get involved in the community. And those are the four pillars that kind of set the framework for the issues that we get involved in. And this data center is a really important, area where there is a lot of debate, and frankly, there's a lot of misperceptions out there. And as we think about the future and the future of our kids and our digital economy, it is so important that we get factual, actual information out there about the data centers, and really, stop having the bad information that's out there, and kind of, dispel the misinformation. And so we've been very involved in helping to, educate people about, what is right and what is wrong in terms of, what they do. And data centers been around a while, been around since the 40s and stuff. We've got, a big proliferation of interest in them, because frankly, our economy, our digital economy, continues to grow and grow. And we think it's so important to support that growth and really, help set forth the policy that's going to allow it to grow. So that's why we get involved and have been advocating for the data centers.
It's really interesting. About a year ago, nobody ever heard about a data center. All of a sudden, it's gone to be the biggest hot ticket topic. And it's amazing, like you said, since they've been around for a while. Zach explained you've got your data hubs since the 40s, but then you have the AI generative centers that I think are the bigger concern. And I'm wondering, I don't know if you can cite any of the major misinformation circling, but if you go on X, there's the buzz about digital currency, flock cameras, but the data, the need for data is so significant because it's taking so much of the utilities, because this is where it is. It's not just ChatGPT on your computer, which is what people think of when they hear about AI. What's some of the misinformation you think? Is there anything? I don't know if you want to dive into it a little bit to clarify.
I think there's a lot of misinformation. I think that in terms of, how much energy data centers are utilizing and who's paying for it, I think there's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of other reasons why we're seeing energy spikes and things of that nature. There's misinformation about water usage and how much water it takes to run a data center. I think that's, another area where we've been very careful to help, explain to people, what is and is not happening. So for me, those are kind of the two biggest areas. And again, if you think back over our lifetime, I think back over my lifetime and stuff, and all the fear, right, that was out there and stuff. I mean, good God, I remember when the world was going to blow up over Y2K. Right. And, I think it's so important that, again, data centers are the backbone of our digital economy. We have got to get this right. We've got to look at the issues. We've got to really understand, are they using more energy? What's causing energy spikes? What's really happening out there? And so, it's for us, I think it's, dispelling some of those myths and really making sure that the accurate and specific information is out there.
Okay.
And the other thing, which I'll mention real quick, one of the areas, like in particular for business, that we focus on too is eliminating regulation and not over-regulating. And as you know, we have a bad habit in New Jersey of over-regulating everything and stuff. Yeah. And again, I think this is another area where you can't rush to put laws and policies in place and ban things without having the right information and the right discussions about what's actually happening.
Well, I definitely think then, apparently this has been a topic in some of the policies your students have put together then. This has probably come up in the 10-week program.
It has, and it is interesting to show again, as they thought about particularly this year, what they want New Jersey to look like in 50 years from now. One of the big areas that they talked extensively about and devoted a big part of their presentation on was energy. What do they want energy to look like in New Jersey? And frankly, these kids get it, and they recognize the importance of diversity in energy sources. They recognize the role of nuclear. I am constantly learning from students about nuclear and the capabilities and things like that. Some of the kids looked at some of the success in other countries and around the world with nuclear and stuff. And so it's definitely a big topic for them, and they think, quite a bit about it. Great. Which obviously bleeds into the whole discussion around data centers.
Right. So there's a couple other big policies to talk about. We're going to take a quick break though, and then we'll jump back in another minute.
You've been waiting in the shadows too long with a fire inside that's burning strong. They told you sit down, stay in line, but this world was built by those who tried. Every dream starts with a spark in the dark. Every change leaves a mark on the heart. It's your time, your turn, your fight. You're the future, you're the light. Let your voice be heard tonight. Stand up, step in, claim your right. We'll hand you the torch, show the way. But you gotta rise and seize the day. Only the strong will break the mold. This is your moment. Take control. Break control. Take control. Take control. Write your path, draw the line. This is your world, this is your time. If you stand, if you fight, you can turn the dark to light. Turn the dark to light.
America's Pulse Network. Amplify your voice with the premier conservative podcast network. Are you a standard bearer for liberty, free markets, and traditional values? Stop fighting the algorithms alone. Join a powerhouse community of like-minded creators dedicated to uncensored truth and professional growth. Here is why to partner with us. Who are we looking for? Ready to scale your podcast? Then apply today to protect your voice and grow your audience.
Okay, well, we're back. I wanted to ask you before we jump into more policy, you mentioned there you ran for Congress, and recently you ran for the state GOP chair. And I was just curious, what prompted you to run for this state GOP chair, because that was just a very recent thing that we had here in New Jersey.
I really think it's so important to bring together people and really, work on winning campaigns. And I really felt, and that I would be very good at bringing people together across the state and really, pushing forward on the policy, as well as, winning campaigns. And, a lot of the campaigns start with understanding the issues, understanding the people, and really, making sure the message is right. And that's certainly something that I thought I could be helpful to the NJGOP with.
Well, we certainly need to produce winning candidates. We have candidates, but we're not winning enough. And I don't know if there's any quick secrets to that. The fact that you coach in formulating a campaign certainly would go a long way. I think fundraising is a big bugaboo. Fundraising is probably something we need more of, I suppose.
It absolutely is.
Sometimes it seems like we're draining our regular donors dry.
No, absolutely. I mean, fundraising is critical, and it's certainly something that.
I think we lost.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely critical.
Okay. So, at any rate, back to whoops.
No,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, no, your point is absolutely correct. Fundraising is a critical piece of it. Messaging is a critical piece of it. Training candidates, those are all very, very important things to do. And with my career and the things that I do, I feel like I can help bring kind of that national element to New Jersey.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well. We're going to continue to need your expertise on that, no matter who is chair. I certainly hope they draw on your expertise. Anyway, back to your students and your advocacy. Affordable housing is a big mystery. People hear the term. There are a lot of terms they don't understand. The Mount Laurel Doctrine, home rule. Could you give us a basic primer on affordable housing here in New Jersey?
The primer may be it's a mess. This is a result of court cases, of legislation, of the Supreme Court of New Jersey getting involved, followed by more legislation. And frankly, it is a lesson in over-regulation and over-involvement of the government. It is the government dictating how much affordable housing needs to be in every single town. And it has put such a burden on so many communities up and down our state. And this latest round of requirements that Trenton has put on our towns is just, it's just unbearable. And frankly, it leads to the unaffordability of New Jersey.
Some of what I've seen that the affordable housing isn't all that affordable. Mount Laurel is a town, it's about 30 minutes up the road from where I'm sitting right now. What was the Mount Laurel Doctrine per se?
It was per se dictating and setting out a system for telling every single town how much affordable housing that they need to have in their community.
Okay. And 64 towns are exempt. Why are 64 towns, these are urban municipalities, why are they exempt? And has the list changed over time since the 70s?
Yes, they are.
Why? Why are 64 towns exempt, the urban towns? Do you know the answer to that?
The list has changed over time, but it is mostly urban communities that are exempt. And it's the theory is that they have the affordable housing, that it's not and again, I'm telling you the theory that they don't need those mandates because there is affordable housing in those communities. And frankly, it's just completely unfair to exempt those towns. It puts more pressure on our rural communities, and it just over regulates the rural areas and stuff. So,
right. Yes, we've heard a lot about that. And by the way, there's a delay. So if I'm not sure how to handle the delay, I'll just wait till it comes through to you. And I guess our listeners will figure out that's what's happening. So there was another big area that I am personally a little bit more familiar with because my career was in the area of education. But we've got the now famous school funding formula, which of course pertains to education, property taxes, because so much of our property taxes goes towards education as pertains to school budgets. What in the world what can you tell us about this? Anything will be appreciated as to your understanding of the formula, the taxation, the future of it. I don't think that came through. The school funding formula, can you comment on that with property taxes in our suburban areas? Can you hear? I think our internet connection is dying somewhere. Rosemary, if you can hear me.
So, it is certainly. Yes, no, happy to. I mean, obviously, this is an issue that has been hotly debated.
Oh my.
Hopefully you can hear me now. Is this a little better?
The sound is okay. The delay is what is causing a little bit of an issue. We can hear you fine.
No, I can hear you.
So what of your interns or what
I can
what are
certainly
you
hear you.
What are you doing?
The funding formula, is something that is of great concern. We've heard Governor Sherrill talk a lot about wanting to revisit it. Frankly, in the last gubernatorial race, it was a hot topic. And it's certainly something that needs to be addressed going forward. And again, as we
So we have talked a lot on this show about it because we've interviewed a few assembly people who have concerns about the funding formula. And we're aware that the average per student in Newark is like $32,000, wherein a lot of these suburban towns, it's $17,000, $19,000. So a huge disparity. Every town hall you go to in any of these suburban towns, people are always complaining about the property taxes, which pertains to this. Do you think we are going to see any movement in this formula? I mean, your group is probably
absolutely. I mean, it is the number one issue.
Yeah, this is.
Let her talk. You're waiting. That delay. You keep trying to rush the silence.
So the funding formula is absolutely an issue that needs to be addressed. And I will tell you, Governor Sherrill has indicated that she intends in the next budget cycle to take a close look at it. I think that there are on all sides, there is a feeling that it really needs to be addressed. I mean, we pay the highest property taxes in the nation, and yet, our schools are not keeping pace and are not, doing as well as they used to. And as you pointed out, the cost of educating kids in Newark versus some of the rural schools. I mean, there's huge disparities there and stuff. And so, we've got to look at other solutions besides continuing to tax people and continuing to burden people. We've got to find other solutions. And we talked about earlier the federal scholarship tax credit. If the governor opts in, it is a real opportunity to bring more monies to those students in public schools. So I am, as we talked about earlier, I'd really like to see us opt into that program so that more dollars are going to our kids.
Mm-hmm. Related to this would be school choice. I don't know how much has been talked about in legislature about school choice, but I don't know if there are any particular models that you advocate for New Jersey, because there are various models in other states for school choice. Are there any that have been seriously looked at for New Jersey?
We actually have school choice here in New Jersey. We have an inter-district public school choice program. It's been around since 2014. Unfortunately, Governor Murphy put a cap on it and limited it. So we only have 119 school districts that participate in the program. And we need to do more to expand that program. I've met some of the kids who have gone through the program. I've had a couple interns that were part of the inter-district program. And, they really found it beneficial. And what this program does is if a school district participates in it, a student can elect, totally voluntary, elect to go from one school district to another. And in many instances, the reason parents choose to participate in the program is they want their child to be closer to their office or their place, their business, or closer to like a grandparent who's going to pick a child up from school. Or in some instances, like just a different environment. We had one young man that was part of our internship program, and he shared with us that he participated in the interdistrict school choice program just because it just where he was going to school before wasn't working. And so his parents said, you know what, let's try this other school district. It had nothing to do with the education, nothing to do with teachers. It just was a different environment, and it worked. And he thrived. He was actually a Fulbright scholar and the whole 9 yards. And so, you have to be open to things like that. And I do think our inter-district public school choice program is a magnificent program, and we ought to be expanding it here in New Jersey.
I was not aware myself. You mentioned 119, and I know we have like 585 school districts. So you're talking about a fifth of the school districts, and you're saying Governor Murphy could have put a kibosh on it. It had limited the number? So Governor, there are 119 school districts out of 585. So that's only about a fifth. So but you said something that Governor Murphy put a lid on how many districts could participate. Is that correct?
Yes, they put limitations on the amount of schools that could participate. And so one of the things that we've been advocating is for an expansion of that program.
Mm-hmm. And this is just public schools. This does not involve any private schools, correct? Just public schools.
That's correct.
Okay. Well, that's something I have to say I was not aware of. So we're going to be wrapping up. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us that you think is paramount pertaining to our conversation that people would like to hear? Any other topic or point of interest?
That is correct. The program started as a pilot project.
Okay. If you can hear me, if there's anything you want to tell us about in closing about your program or things you're advocating for.
Well, as I said, happy to. As I said before, we are very focused on, what we call our 4 pillars. But another big part of what we're focused on this year is celebrating America turning 250 years old. And so what I want to mention is that on September 26th, we have rented out the Somerset Patriot Center.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So we are going to wrap up. I'm sorry about the time delays for our listeners and also for our.
So what I want to mention is that on September 26th, we are holding a birthday party for America at the Somerset Patriot Center. I encourage all of your listeners to come. It's free. We're going to have Joe Girardi, Guy Benson, Rachel Campos Duffy's going to be there, and it's going to be a lot of fun, and it's free. And bring the whole family.
Free is good. Free is good. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. I look forward to talking to you again in the future, and I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you. We're going to take a quick break.
You've been waiting in the shadows too long with a fire inside that's burning strong. They told you sit down, stay in line, but this world was built by those who tried. Every dream starts with a spark in the dark. Every change leaves a mark on the heart. It's your time, your turn, your fight. You're the future, you're the light. Let your voice be heard tonight. Stand up, step in, claim your right. We'll hand you the torch, show the way, but you gotta rise and seize the day. Only the strong will break the mold. This is your moment. Take control. Break control. draw the line. This is your world, this is your time. If you stand, if you fight, you can turn the dark to light. Turn the dark to light.
Well, that's kind of fun music. That's going to take place this Saturday, August 29th. And it's a nice community event, a charity event. And it's kind of a chance happening that Damon Galdo, running for Congress, became involved with this. So they're giving away backpacks. The basketball tournament is still open. I would encourage anybody who wants to participate to jump in. So that's pretty much our show tonight. I want to comment that we are having, we are not going to be here on September 8th. We're going to be here on September 15th. Normally it's the second and fourth Tuesdays, but we're going to come in on the 15th. We have a show. We will be advertising. It's going to be on site for a town hall, I believe. I won't talk too much about that yet. And then after that, we're going to be having Senator Testa. If we could see this, do we have a slide on that, Mr. Producer? Senator Testa will be coming, and we are going to have a very interesting show with him. He's been following closely this whole voter roll dilemma with illegal folks on our voter rolls, the whole motor voter scheme, what has been, what's being done about it, which should have been done about it by now, because we have proposed legislation and bills going back a few years now that I've heard both Assembly and Senate people talk about. So when this kind of blew up, I kind of said, I'm totally really not too surprised, because they've been putting more guardrails in place. So he's going to be more versed on that, and will be able to bring us the latest. So I hope you enjoyed hearing from Rosemary Becky. If you know of any students that would be eager to jump in on our program, it's a win-win, because they will learn something they didn't learn before. And who knows, they might be some of our next candidates that you'll see see up in Trenton someday. So thank you for joining me. And next time it will be Jack and me together, Jack Brangan and I. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us on the New Jersey Statehouse Watch. Join Jack Brangan and Constance Ditzel every second and fourth Tuesday of the month at 7:30 p.m. Watch the show live at njstatehousewatch.com or listen anytime. Download the podcast on Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, or wherever you get your podcasts. We'll see you next time on the New Jersey Statehouse Watch.